Welcome, everyone. Sorry for starting late. The clock is a little behind. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. The first item tonight is the approval of the minutes from September 3rd, 2013. Any comments?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Yes, Ms. Garceau. The minutes? Yes, please, come up.
I have a concern, and I don't know how you will feel about this, but I wish to share it with you. At the meeting on the 3rd, there was an agenda item pertaining to smoking on the beach. And in the minutes, it mentions that 2 people spoke, and there's no comments in regards to what they said. When a person appears under open forum, they're not allowed to make comments pertaining any agenda items that are on that night. But under the circumstances, 2 people spoke and shared their comments. And one of the concerns that I have is that was enforcement of this policy, this ordinance change, this amendment. And at that time, Town Manager Cabell added comments to that. And he based some of the responses, and one of them he based in regards to what happens here in the building. No smoking inside, so many feet outside. I feel very strongly that something should be included in there pertaining to the comments made by the town manager in regards to enforcement. Thank you.
Next item is the announcements and presentations. An acknowledgement of Deborah Kelso for her years of service with the Narragansett Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Bonanno.
So, Deb Kelso is the director of the Narragansett Chamber, and she has resigned. And I just wanted to point out some wonderful things that Deb has done for the town of Narragansett. She has served for the Chamber for 6 years. She's created strong partnerships between the town and local businesses here in Rhode Island. She's created the Restaurant Week, which included all the businesses around the state. She served on the EDC committee for the town of Narragansett. She has created and implemented many events throughout the town, such as Summer's End, the Jingle Bell Run, and the annual Chamber Golf Tournament. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the town of Narragansett, we'd like to thank her for her service, and we wish her the very best in her future endeavors. And I have a little donation from one of the best restaurants in Narragansett, the Twin Willows, from us. Okay? Good luck,
Thank you very
Deb.
much. We'll now move on to the open forum. Please approach the podium and just state your name and address. Mr. Alba.
Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our new town manager. And I noticed it was 5-0 that she was elected to be the town manager. And I believe that when time comes that she's going to be let go, it should be 5-0 too. I mean, if there's 3-2, they shouldn't count. I mean, there should be a unanimous vote to let her go or keep her. I mean, none of this baloney saying, well, he quit. You know, he didn't quit. He was let go. And of course, we had to pay severance pay. As a taxpayer, I don't want to see that, no matter how much I like the person. So to me, it should be a 5-0 vote to let the person go. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garceau.
Joan Garceau, 10 Melbourne Drive. According to the Town Council meeting minutes of September 3rd, 2013, open forum minutes states the motion. Residents are not allowed to speak under open forum on scheduled meeting agenda items. They are only allowed to do so when an agenda items come up for discussion. 2 residents were recognized and allowed to address the council on the agenda item, which addressed prohibiting smoking on the beach. The minutes mentions their names and only states that they spoke on the matter, no comments. Their comments were omitted from the minutes. This policy should not be allowed to continue. And I would feel strongly that in those minutes, that when somebody takes the time to speak and have comments, please do not leave them blank. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Mr.
that's
Wood?
something we can incorporate, obviously, and we can talk about like more detail in the minutes for that type of thing. I mean, so I think that's a good idea to show both sides. I think what Mrs. Garceau is trying to get at is show both sides of a debate that took place.
Mr. Wojciechowski. Jeez.
Ask not what your country can do for you. I think that's part of history that is worthwhile repeating and memorizing and considering. I think it also means ask not what your federal government can do for you. Ask not what your state can do for you. Ask not what your town can do for you. The man who said this, he obviously was a very smart man, he was in government, and he knew there was a problem, and he made this statement to try and help solve that problem. And I look at it from a town perspective, and let's take a few examples. At the last meeting, a prominent gal showed up. She wanted $7,000 to pay for her printed items. You know, it's tax dollars, $7,000 doesn't sound like much, but again, she asked the town to pay for it. You know, it seems to me it should have been a bill paid for by maybe liquor establishments, maybe college rental agents. It should have been paid by somebody else. Again, she asked the town to pay for it, and we did. I don't think that was proper. Then I look at the next issue was the pool. We had a pool, and the town paid for a pool, and the good thing you all did was to get rid of the pool. Yet I see in the paper somebody wants to promote we should have a pool. You know, who says we should have a pool? You know, somebody on some committee still likes to have a pool. No, that's not a government function to provide a pool, especially since we have the YMCA, as I said before. Again, somebody's asking, somebody with some interest, somebody with some, on a committee, whatever, they're asking for us to spend our dollars on things that may not be needed. And of course, the final situation is, now the pool was maybe a couple $100,000, but now we're looking at $500,000 maybe. Now we want to build cabanas, you know, or we're thinking of building some cabanas. You know, again, should town government be involved in building cabanas? Are we in a cabana business? You know, I think we're so used to government doing everything for us, thinking it's free, that they convince you to go and do that. And we got to go back to the basics. Let's listen to this man when he says, ask not what your town and country can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shabshelowitz.
Hi, I wanted, Karen Shepshow at 63 Wanda Street. I wanted to thank the town council for their unanimous support of the Wounded Warrior Project flag. As you're all aware of what happened today in D.C., it just emphasizes the importance of honoring our military and our public servants, including like the police and the fire department. I think it's very sad that we have to continually have incidents like this, but I think it says a lot about the town of Narragansett and the town council, the fact that they supported this so graciously, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you. I don't want to talk on an agenda item, so I will admit that I will say that later. Perhaps one of the reasons people do get up in open forum to speak on agenda items is because of sometimes the sequence of the items. It's quite late when some of the items appear on the agenda that affect a lot of people. And like when we had the deep water talks and the bike paths, sometimes they were left to the end. And I was wondering if there was any way that sometimes agenda items that concern the public more across the board could be put earlier on the agenda, because some people, for one reason or another, can't stay that late. And I know it's complicated and everyone would like to have the agenda item first, but that might be a way of cutting down what's said in open forum. And I also wanted to ask, and I know you can't respond, but I'm a client of United Water. Not everyone in Narragansett gets their water from Narragansett Water. And I read in the paper that South Kingston was taking some sort of intervention move, because it's supposed to take effect October 1st, a 40% raise in the water rates. And I'd certainly like to know what this 40% is going to cover, because it's the second increase in the water rates, and 40% affects residents as well as the town that maybe uses their water. So I don't know if there's any way of delaying that or if it's already in process, but I'm concerned about that, because good water is an issue for everybody, but a 40% raise, I'd like to know where it's going. Thank you.
Just for purposes of interest, Narragansett is joining with South Kingston.
Yes, we have intervened. We have issued a joint RFP with South Kingstown for consulting services, and we will be approaching the council once we get the results from that RFP about whether or not you want to go with us. We want to join South Kingstown in the intervention.
Thank you.
Will it take effect October 1st?
No. Well, let me put, it's before the PUC. The PUC has a decision-making time. United Water has asked for it to be effective October 1st. The last time they did it, I understood it was a good 8 months before it was implemented.
Thank you. Ms. Bush?
Hi, I'm Sue Bush, 65 Robinson Street. I just wanted to bring to attention a couple of great events that are coming up on behalf of the Narragansett Historical Society. One is a house tour, which will have 8 really beautiful and unique houses and 2 historic churches. And this is going to be held on the 13th of October. The tickets are $30 in advance, $40 the day of. So if you can order in advance, that would help us plan better and help your wallet. We do it by mail, though. So it's you can send a check to P.O. Box 418. That's P.O. Box 418, checks made to the Narragansett Historical Society. And it helps us if you provide a phone number and an email address, as well as obviously your street address, which will be on your check most likely. And if you have any questions, Shirley Eastham has told me I can give her phone number out. It's 783-8907 if anybody has any questions about that. But it's going to be a really great event. I hope a lot of you have time to go. Take advantage of it. It should be really interesting. And Ted Wright, I want to mention, has graciously agreed to provide trolley service, as some of the homes are not right on Central Street, and we really appreciate his generosity. Another event that's going to be held to benefit the Narragansett Historical Society and is in memory of Jim Lawrence, who was our webmaster and passed away earlier this fall, is a 10K road race, and that's going to be held on October 6th. And you can find out more about that road race by going to oceanroad10k.com. And if anybody would like to volunteer by handing out water or anything at the end of that race, you can contact me, and my number is 782-6710. So thank you very much. I hope you all have time to attend these events.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Looks like we'll move on to the next item on the agenda before the public forums. The consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they'd like to remove? Someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to old business. Number 11, a motion to adopt an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 46, miscellaneous offenses, Article 1 in general, Section 46-9 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, entitled Smoking and Use of Tobacco Products Prohibited During Youth Events Held at Town Athletic and Recreational Facilities and at other designated public places.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
So if we vote the same way we did last time, should we
Right.
be tabling this to the next meeting? Yeah.
I understand it was a split vote, so probably in deference to Mr. McLaughlin not being here, might want to have the full council present for it.
Good point.
So move to
table it.
continue to the next, to the October 7th meeting?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 12, new business. A motion to award the bid for a multi-jurisdictional facility, marine storage, Port of Galilee pre-engineered building to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Pascack Builders, Inc., in the amount of $463,400.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
With discussion, I think it'd be best to have some background on this if we could.
I will give some very simple background if you want more. Both Jeff Cesarine and Chief Hoxie are here. But this is a result of a grant that the town applied for. It is 100% grant-funded project. This is a repeat bidding process because the first bids were higher than the grant. We went with a pre-engineered building, and if you look at the extensive memo that Jeff prepared, there was certain certifications that people had to submit that some of the other bidders did not submit. So Pascack was chosen as the lowest responsive bidder. The grant has a balance of $535,000. So what we will be able to do once the construction is completed of this building is we will be able to identify a town usage related to the grant for the remainder of the funds. The building itself is going to be built near the water tank in Galilee, and it is going to be used to store equipment that is used in that area for emergency purposes.
Further discussion? Mr. Wojciechowski? All right.
He heard the word grant and he was all set.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 13, a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing budget transfer from fiscal year 12-13 in accordance with the town charter.
I'll move that motion.
Second?
Discussion?
Should we highlight the big ones just for, okay. Is that-
If I could just give you a brief overview. This is a normal process at the end of a fiscal year where you make transfers into particular lines that have gone over budget, but I still want to remind everybody that we went under budget total in our expenditures last year. Total budget was under expenditures, and in fact, we have added to our undesignated fund balance because revenues exceeded the budget. The transfers are coming from two major sources. The contingency account, which had a budget of $433,000 and only $383,000 is used in this transfer, and from the retirement and termination pay line, which had a budget of $230,000, but only $208,000 is being used. The retirement and termination pay line is budgeted in one place in the budget, but then actually when the individuals who leave, either they choose to retire or to leave town service for other reasons, the payouts may go to different departments. So there are various smaller transactions that go to different departments to cover those expenses. So, for instance, in the police department, there's about $191,000 of termination benefits because we had significant retirements in the police department. There's $30,000 in the fire department because of the retirement of the former Chief Cotter. And other than that, the next major expenditures are part-time wages in the police department and some overtime, a significant amount of overtime in the fire department, which deals with understaffing in the fire department beyond, underneath our complement that is required per the minimum manning in the contract. But again, I think the most important thing to remember is this is still good news, but this is, and the other thing I want to point out, one of the things that the town does very well is we charge expenditures to the line that they should be charged to, not the line that has money. I've worked in organizations where they say, oh, we have money in the copier line, so let's charge these magic markers to the copier line when they should be charged to the magic marker line. The town charges the expenses to the proper line, and then we make these year-end transfers to make sure that we don't exceed our budgeted amounts.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. A motion to schedule a work session to discuss the 5-year financial plan for the town of Narragansett.
Move that motion.
Second.
What was the suggested date?
October 21st?
What day is that, Rich?
Monday.
That's a Monday?
So it's
That's a
before our
Monday.
meeting?
Yes, before your meeting.
Do we want to include the finance committee?
Why not?
Yes.
Sure.
Yep. I think that's a great idea.
They're having a meeting prior to that, on the 8th. I think they're trying to set the 7th or the 8th, I forget. 8th.
I just think it would be
Yeah.
useful to get everybody in a room rather than try and
Okay.
revisit it with them offline.
So what time is that going to be?
Well, it's a 5-year plan, so there's no rush in case we have to coordinate with the finance committee. I mean,
Right.
Well, if you want to set it up for the 21st at 6:30, and then we can see if they're available on that night, and then if they're not, we'll reschedule it.
Sounds good.
makes sense. So
6:30.
6:30 on October 21st, a motion to schedule a work session to discuss the 5-year financial plan for the town of Narragansett. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 15, a motion to schedule a work session to discuss the North Cabana reconstruction project.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
There is a need to do this expeditiously, because if we're going to do it, we need to get the construction going. I'm not prejudging whether the construction is taking place.
So before we talk about scheduling, is it the workshop for the council or for the public?
Well, the workshop is for the council, and then we will come back to you with, then we will be preparing bid documents and authorizing, eventually we will be coming back to you with the bids to award the bids at a public session.
Right, so if people want to come to that workshop, can they listen and come to that workshop and not be involved, not speak at it? I'm just trying to figure out what's the strategy as we move down the road with the pavilion. We're going to get educated, and then we're going to hear from, let the public hear about it as well?
Well, we let people talk at our
Right.
work session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've done both. Tonight you let some of the public speak, so
Yeah, so
It's always helpful, right?
Right, because I was thinking, even if it's just for the council, that there would be opportunities down the road for the public, because I know that's a very interested topic out there. So I just want to make sure they're included all the way.
If we're going to do that then and have public comments, maybe it should be a little early than 6:30, if there's a thought. But that's just, if we want to, because we have them open, and people talk at them, so. What's the date we're looking at?
The 21st.
well, we had put the 21st, which is the same day as the five-year financial plan. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's not good.
So, but again, the only reason I'm saying it is because we need to make sure we completely understand the project ourselves, and that's going to take a session, and then we want to make sure the public can understand it. I just don't, I know there's a rush on it, but we just want to,
Well, maybe you want to schedule this for one of your off-meeting nights, like the 28th? The 21st is when you're having a regular meeting. So you can pick either the financial plan or this to have. on
Maybe the
off-
financial, when does the finance committee meet, Glenna?
On the 8th, I think.
They're trying to meet the Tuesday after your next meeting, which I think is the 8th.
it's
Right.
the 8th, yep. If there's a rush on this and not the other one, then maybe you should,
I think both have levels of importance, so,
Do we have anything before the meeting the 7th?
yes, there's one, you scheduled a work session on bonding projects, which is very important and is time-sensitive. So I'm
wondering the November Finance Committee meeting, maybe we make that, see if we can be part of that, like their monthly November for the 5-year plan. That opens up the other night, but that's just a thought. Is that appropriate now?
I think that makes sense.
It's inappropriate, Ann?
Yeah.
If you were saying the other one's pressing.
So you want to do the 21st for the cabanas, and then the Finance Committee is having their first meeting since June, I think, June or July, this coming,
Since the budget.
in October. So I can't sit there and say to you, this is their regular meeting night, So if you want to change the work session on the 5-year financial plan, maybe you want to just do it at 6:30 prior to your council meeting in November. Again, invite the Finance Committee and do the cabanas at 6:30 on the 21st.
Makes sense.
The Peach Cabanas
So
is
move
the
to
21st.
withdraw the motion on cabanas,
Right.
on 5-year plan.
I'll second
Right.
that, so let's take it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not election.
So all in favor of,
That would be November
Withdrawing, so we're
4th.
withdrawing the other scheduling. so-
Aye.
Aye,
And now you want to move to make it November 4th
right.
and direct me to invite the Finance Committee, right?
please?
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
I just wanted to register that I do not believe we should have a workshop on this. I looked at the preliminary statement that was on a.
Mr. Wojciechowski, we're not getting the merits of it. We're just scheduling
I
a
know,
meeting.
I just look,
That's
need to look at-
that's
if
the
we're gonna
purpose,
look at
that's the
that,
purpose
it's
of the work
4
session. You know, you've been to plenty of those, you know what that
$4
was.
million. It's worth $4 million. The town should see $600 million. Unless I see a document that says the town is going to get $600,000 from this effort, then we shouldn't be involved in having a step forward. We shouldn't even be scheduled until there's a financial look-through to verify that the town is going to make some money on this. As I said, 15% we should have a return. It's worth $4 million out there. We should see $600,000 going to the taxpayer from this effort. And if we don't, we shouldn't even schedule any issue until that's
part
verified
of the
by
process.
the town.
It's part of the process, Mr.
finance
Wojciechowski. You know
guy.
how it works. It's just a schedule. So you're
I
more than welcome to come to the meeting, and I'm sure you will.
I know,
and
but
be happy to listen to what you have to say.
Because at this point, the cabana is going to cost about $8,000 per person, and then we'll have no lines. I just don't feel that we should be involved in this project at all. It's not in the charter. I don't think it's justified. The government shall not provide. Shouldn't be scheduling.
Thank you.
So we're looking at October 21st at 6:30 on the cabanas? So I think you need to take a vote on that.
Have we seconded that motion then?
I'm not sure.
All right.
I seconded it. All right, good.
All right, all in favor of October 21st, 6:30 PM, North Cabana Reconstruction Project Work Session?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 16, a motion to schedule a work session to examine the athletic facilities at the high school on September 25th, 2013, which is a week from this Wednesday.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Isn't the
Discussion?
police ceremony also on the 25th?
Yes, it
That's at
is.
7
mean,
o'clock, that's way,
The purpose of this is the school wanted to take you through, and so if you schedule it and you show up and more than 2 of you show up, nobody's going to accuse you of violating the open meetings law.
But
It's
on
gonna
the,
be-
on the same date as that one, we were going to talk about meeting the town manager too at 5 to 7 at the Cabana?
That's the
Is-
24th.
No, that's the 24th.
Okay, all
the
right,
day
just
before.
don't want to, I want to get my calendar straight. That's the 24th, the 25th is the ceremony, but it would be before that, correct?
right, if we're going to be at the high school anyway,
It'd be,
if anyone
okay.
wants to come, more than welcome to take a look.
And the people who want you at 7 o'clock have ways to make sure you'll be ready at 7
Right.
o'clock.
So, all in favor of 9, Mr. Wojciechowski?
Again, I don't feel we should be giving some idea that this is we should be focused on learning. Here we are, we've already spent hundreds of thousands on the floor. Now we're going to spend on an athletic facility. We're in there to learn. In Providence, they're focused on learning, not playing, learning. Okay? They're going to school from 7:30 to 4:30.
Mr. Wojciechowski,
and
we're
learning.
not going to get into
I
the
don't
merits
even
of this
want-
discussion again.
I
You're more than welcome to come to the session.
I understand, but
If
I
you
don't
don't want
want
the session, just
by
say
the
so.
town council even agreeing to entertain the idea.
That's
There's
how the
subtle
process
approval
works.
of that, and I don't want to see any subtle approval of athletic facility. We've already got this thing going. We
Mr.
need to
Wojciechowski,
focus on
this
learning
is
and
how the
send that
process
message
works.
by not going to this thing, not
You
scheduling.
know how it works.
We have
This
to
is part of the
set a
process.
message to them.
It's a discussion.
Enough with the athletics. Let's
Mr.
get on.
Wojciechowski,
We
enough,
maybe need computers.
enough.
I don't mind spending $1 million on computers.
Enough.
But not on a field. We got a plenty good field. In fact, it's better off that they have a lousy field to run on. They get used to that, and they won't hurt their feet when they get on a rough area when they're out there. So I don't believe we should be doing this.
You're welcome to come on the 25th if it gets scheduled, all right?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. See you at 6:30 on the 25th. Or 6, I'm sorry. A motion to schedule a meet and greet with the new town manager
I'll
for
move that motion.
9/24/2013 from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'll move that motion.
Second, but I have a scheduling question on this, I'm sorry. How far along is this planning-wise?
Well,
Have you secured Canachet and everything, like this is,
we're using the beach clubhouse.
Right.
We've secured that. We worked out the dates with Pam Nolan, and we haven't sent out any invitations, waiting your actions tonight.
How did we come up with 5 to 7?
yeah, we weren't, I mean, it's like, we weren't, I mean, we can schedule things under the Open Meetings Act and because it's a difficult night for me, so but,
Well, then, let's change it.
yeah, okay, all right.
I-
But I don't want to
We're
be,
not
I don't,
married.
if we're far along with it, I
No,
don't want to be the
no.
one to stop it. We book notch it, like, I don't want to,
No,
know.
we are not that far along.
So when can she do it, if it sounds like you talk with her?
Yeah, if the council, I mean, this was a chicken and the egg. You asked us to schedule it.
Yeah.
We found out days that worked for her next week. But if you want to pick another day, we'll work on another day.
Do you guys, is something wrong with
I
5
was
to
thinking
7?
the first week of October. That was a tough night for me,
Okay.
so. That was,
First week
I
of
mean, but I don't
October.
want to change it for me. I mean,
Well,
if the
we want
commi-
you there, Matt.
Thank you.
And Glenna, did you not like 5 to 7? You thought it was?
5 was too early for me.
Yeah,
But
so later in October, like that first week, and a little bit later, like 6:30 or something like that?
I could do
6.
6.
Okay, so it's
Okay, so you're looking for,
first week of October at 6, one of those nights. So,
all right, can I just ask Mark a question?
how about like the 3rd? Yeah. But I think Glenna's right, like at 6. No, it's fine, it's fine. So can you guys like look at the
Any
second?
night,
the
any
third,
night
me
that
too?
week would work
Huh?
for me. Any night that week would
Yeah,
work.
so want to do like a Thursday, that want to do that
Yeah,
3rd?
that's good.
October 3rd. We should give a backup date, though.
Right.
So October
Yeah.
3rd at 6:30, but what, just in case,
You skipped 17, just for...
do you want to do an
Oh, right.
alternative date?
The challenge is just trying to pick a date that, it's, as Rich said, chicken and egg. Is any night that week good for you people?
We
for-
just said that whole first week of October is good for us. We were looking at October 3rd at 6:30.
Oh, Is there an alternate in case Pam's
Yeah,
not
well, maybe
available?
we could do the 2nd, a Wednesday as the alternate date.
How about the week after? Because she's going to be here, I assume.
No,
Or
she
she's
doesn't
not going to
st-
be there yet.
She doesn't start work until the following week.
Can we try the 3rd?
Sure.
So
I mean, I just don't know if she's scheduled a vacation or what. I
Yeah,
will
well,
be
we
speaking
hope-
with her tomorrow.
can we use the 2nd as a backup date?
Yeah, let's
So
do
the motion would be to schedule it for the 3rd from 6 to 8, and the alternative would be the 2nd from 6 to 8, based upon her availability. If those dates don't work, we'll be back to you to pick something in the later weeks in October.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I apologize, the second time in a row, I skipped an item, number 17, a motion to schedule a promotional ceremony for the police department. I
I'll move that.
apologize for that.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
And that is for 9/25/2013 at 7 PM. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to the public hearing, which is to begin at 8 PM. A motion to schedule a public hearing on a petition to amend the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, should wait for, take a break and wait for Diane to come up. I apologize.
Well, you can schedule.
We can schedule? All right.
You can work on the scheduling while she's
All
coming
right.
up.
To change the designation of Assessor's Plat B-2, Lot 2B from residential to commercial.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
The suggested date is 11/18/2013. Is that all right for everybody?
At 8.
8 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. A motion to refer that to the planning board for recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
He's going to expect
All in
half your
favor?
fee.
Aye.
He's going to expect half your fee.
A motion to schedule a public hearing on a petition to amend the zoning map to change the zoning district classification of Assessor's Map B2, Lot 2B from R80 to residential to BA limited business.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
And the suggested date is also November 18th at 8 PM. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. A motion to refer that to the planning board for recommendation.
I'll
So-
make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll just take a short break to let Diane set up. Welcome back, everyone. We're all set to go. Welcome. We're moving on to a public hearing on a petition from Colbea Enterprises LLC, doing business as Shell Gasoline Station and Seasons Convenience Store, to operate a 24-hour convenience store at 1015 Boston Neck Road. A motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
I'm not
All in
on.
favor?
Aye.
And we'd invite the applicant up first. That's generally how it moves along.
Could you raise your right hand to be sworn in for your testimony? Do you swear the testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
yes. Norman LeMay, L-E-M-A-Y.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, we're in the process of building, we have, there was a service bay and a gas station at that location, and we're in the process of building a convenience store. It's going to be a state-of-the-art convenience store. It's really going to be an upgrade to that area and the rest of the items. And we found that we have, in Rhode Island alone, Colbea has over 30 locations, and majority, if about 95% of these locations are 24-hour stores, convenience stores and gas stations. That's the way people are going with the gas stations and convenience stores are 24 hours. And we feel that this would be an ideal location. It would help that area. It would also be a convenience for anybody, as far as people don't realize that during the winter months, when you get your snow plows and the rest of the people that are out in the roads and the rest of the items, this way it'll give them actually some place to go to warm up, get coffee or whatever they need. Same with your first responders, your police departments and the rest of the stuff. Convenience stores are there to help the public as well as for us, and I feel that would be a boost to the town of Narragansett. Any further questions?
Would it be the convenience store and the gas station open?
Yes. Yes, sir.
24 hours? Have you done any kind of studies on what traffic or what kind of clientele you expect to get on 24 hours?
Like I had stated earlier, most of our locations are 24 hours. We have a lot of towns that are close to Narragansett that we have 24-hour locations, such as Newport, in Middletown, Rhode Island, North Kingston. All of these operations are very convenient and really functional. If you think back years ago, you never thought of having a grocery store open past 9 o'clock. Now grocery stores are 24 hours. They're that way to help the public and the way the economy is growing at this time.
Thanks.
So there's a lot of college students sometimes renting in that part of town in the Muratori section of Bonnet, as well as like in the log cabin section of Bonnet. So there's a concern that we'll have between those hours where students are often walking, we're kind of asking for trouble in a sense by doing the 2 to 6 a.m. So that's a concern that's been brought to my attention.
We have other stores that are in actual college areas and the rest of the stuff. In the Providence area, we have right by the campus. The campus is on Benefit Street and up in that area. We have a location that's 24 hours. Actually, it's been advantageous as far as we make sure as a company it's not a gathering area. All our people are trained that we want to service the public, but yet not have the public have a place just to hang out. And we don't treat them that way.
Would you be willing to go through a trial period to see how it actually works out for the town and for you, and come back and report to us if it's, I'm not saying it would be approved, but just in case?
If that's what the council feels would be the first way to go, I don't see where we would have any objection.
We could do a probationary period. I think that's, I mean, I I think it's fine. I mean, CVS, did you say was open 24 hours at one point? I don't know how well they did. But, I mean, I think a little differently than Matt. I mean, I'm not concerned about the college students. I'm just thinking for people that work late, that might need gas, people that need conveniences. So for me, I think it's a great idea, and if it becomes a problem, the town will know through the police department anyway. So I support a trial opportunity for your business and for gas. I know myself, sometimes I need gas really early and I
You'd
go
be
to step.
surprised.
So I think it might be worth giving it a try, and if it becomes a problem, then we don't, I don't know, then we don't move forward, but 6-month trial, see what the activity is and if there are any problems in the town. What do you guys think?
With that, we can... Sir, we're getting to the process. This is not, we're not closing the public hearing. You'll have a chance to speak. As I was saying, if there's no other questions of Mr., I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
LeMay.
LeMay, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
You can, of course, come back up and address questions if some are asked of you, but at this point, we'll ask the public if they have any comments, either pro or con.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is John Goonan, spelled Goonan.
Thank you.
I'm at 6 Bonnet Shores Road. I live directly behind and adjacent to the gas station / convenience store. We already have enough problem with college students. Saturday night, the police were called to the house just adjacent to the gas station across the road because of noise going after 1 o'clock in the morning, which highlights the fact that if you have a convenience store open, it may be convenient for a very, very few people, but it does increase the noise. Immediate area, including my house, and also the increased lighting effect that they will have there. I feel like my house is going to wind up with a daytime situation for 24 hours. It's untenable. We have family, we have guests, people who like to get a night's sleep, which they'll be denied with these situations. You can't consider everybody who just happens to be wandering along. I mean, it's very nice to say during snow plowing season, what is that, one night a year? It's just not right. There is no 24-hour store on Boston Neck Road. Everybody closes down. And this is not the place, especially since you are so tight to many homes, to start one. Thank you.
Sir.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Just swear the testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
John Brindamore, Brindamor.
Thank you.
Council, I'd like to express my objection to the petition for the Shell Station and Seasons Convenience Store to operate a 24-hour convenience store at 1015 Boston Neck Road. Living nearby this location, I see little or no benefit to allowing the 24-hour operation. According to a study conducted by the U.S. Department of Justice, and I quote, "Operation hours are by far the strongest factor contributing to convenience store robbery, particularly for stores open 24 hours a day. Late evening to early morning hours carry a greater risk of being targeted, perhaps because fewer people, other customers, police, or passersby who might intervene are about. Earlier this year, I was witness to a high-speed chase that occurred right on Wampum Road, in which a police officer was injured and nearby citizens were at risk. We are not immune to crime in this area and should not be inviting potential problems to this area. The proposed market is located right at the exit of Bonnet Shores, which is known to be one of the biggest hubs for college-aged parties. I was reading in today's police beat about all of the DUIs that happened over the weekend. Most were in the early hours of the morning. We don't need to be catering to this crowd. I also have concerns about the commercial atmosphere in this area. Expansion has been happening very quickly on the business strip at the north end of town. A 24-hour convenience store will take away from the cozy hometown feeling. Also, a business burning its lights round the clock will just further impact the light pollution that already exists in the area. I have spoken with other concerned citizens that agree with my position. It's for these reasons that I ask the council to oppose the petition for a 24-hour operational license. I'd also like you to know that I am opposed to the trial period for the store as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garceau.
Would you raise your right hand, please, Mrs. Garceau? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearings will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Attorney, did you swear them in too?
I did.
You did? I must have been asleep.
Yes, you do?
Yes, I do.
You just spell your...
My name is Joan Garceau, and I spell it Garceau, and I live at 10 Melwood Drive. Thank you. If you've done any traveling, and especially with that road, that's an extensive road for traveling for tourists, especially Newport, coming over. And if you're a traveler, and I've done a lot of traveling these last few months, and the gasoline station, the little corner gasoline station is becoming obsolete. They are coming with clean bathrooms, a place to sit down, have coffee, sandwiches, whatever. It's a wonderful place. And I won't mention one. There's one that's as expanded, Wawa, but I'll say it anyway. What a place. And if you're on the road and you're traveling, it's a wonderful place to stop. It, to me, is an asset to Narragansett to have such a place that's open 24 hours for the traveler. And if you want people to come here and travel, you need to have places for them to stop. So I really want to say, I hope you'll approve this gentleman's request for the 24 hours and think about it as an asset to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alba?
Could you raise your right hand, please, Mr. Alba? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can state your name. We know how to spell your last name, so.
Alba, A-L-B-A.
Thanks.
I believe what Garceau said is very, very true. It would definitely be an asset for people traveling through long distances or whatnot to have a place open to the public. I think it would, definitely would be an asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vangermish?
Could you raise your right hand, please, Richard? Do you swear testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And could you,
Yeah,
you spell your last
Richard,
name?
V-A-N-G-E-R-M-E-E-R-S-C-H. I live quite close to their next street, 2 streets over Mount View Road. And, you know, my concern is the same concern I've spoken before, and that is parking. There are times that this area is clogged, and that would be Saturday afternoon and Sunday mornings, obviously coinciding with the Catholic Church. Parking is a problem, and I'm trying to imagine how many parking spaces this place will have. You know, maybe 6 or 8, not counting the spots for gas. And it conceivably could cause a back. We don't want people parking on the so-called breakdown lane, which of course is a parking lot in Narragansett on Saturdays and Sundays. This we can't have. We just, what it does to pedestrians and what it does to people who a bike is a disaster, because every time a car is in a breakdown lane, this leaves the bicyclist with a problem. Either go on the street, on the sidewalk. Even that, of course, in that area is difficult because the sidewalk is an entry and an exit from the gas station. Somehow, we cannot do anything to encourage more people parking in the breakdown lane. You go there Saturday afternoons, and the breakdown lanes on both sides of the roads are clogged with cars. This is true on Sunday mornings. And this is true if there's a major funeral or a funeral being, mass being held. The area is all clogged up. We certainly don't want anybody parking on the street and walking in at any time. People just can't park in the breakdown lane and count this as a parking lot. So I think you really want to be sure there are enough parking spaces to handle this particular situation. If not, people are going to be parking in the breakdown lane, which is okay for Narragansett, since every breakdown lane is a parking lot.
Richard, I'm confused though, because people aren't going to be going to church 2 or 3 o'clock at night. This is extended hours, right?
No, but people do want to go to a convenience store on Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning.
Well, they have used that as a convenience store. I'm just trying to figure, I know it's busy up there because I see St. Veronica's, there are a lot of people parking. That's Saturday and Sunday, so I'm trying to figure extending the hours to the convenience store, how that would impact.
Well, it might, if there aren't enough parking. People are going to use the breakdown lanes. People may just choose to stop their car in a breakdown lane and walk in to the store. We cannot encourage people to park at any time in the breakdown lane. So we close our eyes when the church is in session, all right? When there's a funeral, okay, we can live with this, but we don't want to encourage it. We don't want to encourage more people on Sunday mornings and Saturday afternoons to extend the use of the breakdown lane right to the light. And this is what we're beginning to see. And this just isn't good, because if you want to use the convenience, there's got to be enough parking in there so that people just don't casually park on the road. And, you know, the traffic is unwieldy. When you add cars just willy-nilly parked on breakdown lanes, blocking the view of pedestrians, bikers, and cars. We just can't have that. So I would hope that that area would be closed down for parking. But it gets perilously close on Saturday afternoons and a busy Sunday morning at church. Cars are pushing down this way already. And this might be an encouragement, especially if there aren't enough parking spaces. The number of parking spaces is crucial. And of course, when it was a garage, maybe 6 cars could park there. But they were there all day. They weren't, that's why they were there. They were broken down. Right? But if you're going to get all this activity, please exclude parking and enforce it so that we just don't have people at all times of the day just driving up. Oh, I'm not going to drive, and I'm just going to use this breakdown lane and park my car there. This is not good at all.
Any further comments on this, for the public hearing portion of this item? Someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I just had one more question that I wanted to ask. How many parking spaces are in that parking lot with the convenience store? I mean, how many cars fit in there?
I'm not sure the exact amount, but we make sure that we have adequate parking to accommodate all our stores. It's very important. We don't want to have customers that are not able to access the store. That would hurt our business as far as that. And the nature of a convenience store isn't, actually he had mentioned before there were 6 cars that were there all day. The natures of a convenience store is people come in, get their gas, get whatever they need, and leave. They don't stay at the parking area for any length of time. So there should be more than adequate parking at the location.
Any further questions or comment? Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve or deny the license application for a victualling and holiday license and approve or deny the extended hours of operation?
I would move to deny.
Is there a second?
I think I can move to approve pending a probationary period.
I agree with you, Glenna.
I agree with Matt.
So we'll second the motion.
Can I second a motion?
Yeah, you can second.
He can second, right?
I second Matt's motion then. All in favor of the motion to deny?
Do you want to discuss it at all? Should we probably discuss, share our thoughts? No? I mean, you
I
want to,
pretty
yeah.
much shared my...
Yeah, Mrs. Garceau, there was a Wawa just on the outskirts of my college campus in New Jersey, and I can tell you from 2 to 6 p.m. maybe once in a while, there were a lot more traffic there, and I don't think I want to bring that to our neighborhoods here, to Bonnet and to Eastwood Look. We have a problem in the town. We talk about it all the time about the college rentals. How do we address that? We know we have the problem. We hear about it when we go door to door. How do we not invite that to become a bigger, a worse problem? Well, to me, opening the first 24-hour convenience store would contribute to that, the foot traffic. So I think we need to be diligent in trying to do that. We don't want it. We know that people rent to college students. We know that goes on, but we have to be we do have to be diligent in how we handle this. So I can assure you, I can envision the problems. Briggs Farm, we just approved increased parking restrictions for them because they're having problems with college rentals. I know that area in Bonnet pretty well. I can envision what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of walking to the convenience store. We're going to see people who are already drinking, college-age students already drinking, who are walking around, now going there, getting cigarettes. I just think we're inviting a host of problems. So that's why I made the motion to deny. Thank you for seconding it.
I agree with Matt's sentiments.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion to deny?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
As Mark and I discussed this before today, just to make sure
The motion to deny fails, but you're not going to get a motion to approve, so the license is not going to be granted. So if Glenna's motion gets seconded by Susan and 2 vote in favor and 2 against it, that does not pass. You do not have a license granted. So in effect, there's no decision coming. 2-2 is never going to grant you a license. Doug wasn't here for the testimony.
So we should vote on the second
No,
motion.
it's denied.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the motion
Well,
fails, it can't pass?
They can't open 2 to 6. They're open, 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. is what they cannot, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is what the license is for, the extended hours.
We should formally vote, though, on the motion to approve.
Right.
Right.
Yep. So Glenna makes a motion to approve, Susan seconds it, and the vote's going to be?
So I'm going to make the motion.
I made it. You
And I'm
already
going to second
seconded.
it.
Right.
Okay.
No.
no,
This
no,
is
no,
the
no.
motion.
No, they already
No.
have
No,
a
no,
regular
yeah.
license. Oh, they
Okay.
don't.
Then let's do this. Let's clean up the record on the motion for the extended hours.
Okay.
If Glenna made the motion, Susan seconded, let's call for a vote on that, and it's going to go 2-2, I suspect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So there is no extended license. They do need a vote on the normal victualling holiday sales license, which allows them to operate from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m., the reverse of it. That should be non-controversial. They already have one or had one in the past.
A motion to approve the miscellaneous license for application for victualling and holiday license for the normal, regular business hours.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion, Ms. Garceau?
I have to step back. In regards to Robert's Rules of Order, you have a board that is made up of 5 members. Presently, 1 is missing. Your vote is tied 2-2. It appears to me that you table this until the next person comes, makes the board 5, and address the question again. Thank you.
That would be perfectly normal if there was not a public hearing where testimony was taken. He was not present. So he cannot then vote on a matter he was not
I
present.
disagree.
That's fine. Disagree with all you want.
I suggest you review Robert's Rules of Order. We had a meeting with 4 members. 2 voted no and 2 voted yes. We had to come back with a new agenda and come back and start all over. You are missing 1 member.
Where are we now? Okay. No, we have to vote on the...
You need to vote on the normal, the regular license.
So I move that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to a public hearing to amend Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning, Dissolving the Industrial Performance Commission.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. DeLuca?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is probably the most unique application I've ever seen. I don't recall a board, a standing board or commission ever asking for less power, or in this case, even being eliminated altogether. But this doesn't come frivolously. The Industrial Performance Commission was established sometime in the 1970s. In my research today, I couldn't get the exact date, but I'm sure it was during, coincided somewhat with the time that the South Ferry, I should say, industrial park was being thought of and designed and under construction. And when they were established, sections 12.6 and 12.7 of the zoning code were created. In one subsection of that, it identified what the Industrial Performance Commission's responsibility was. And it stated to provide technical and scientific assistance to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Review in their determinations of whether proposed industrial uses and operations comply with the performance standards set forth in the zoning ordinance. The membership is made up of 1 member of the Planning Board, 1 member of the Zoning Board, and 3 members appointed by the Town Council. There is no further description of how the 3 members' qualifications need to be set. So it was interesting that it suggested scientific and technical assistance, and we might not have had people with scientific or technical background. Be that as it may, in the intervening years, the fire chief was routinely appointed to one of those 3 positions. So we had a member of the fire department always on the commission giving his input. The building official is an ex officio member. So we had that level of expertise always there, which was good. However, as time has gone on, and I'm sure you're all aware, fire codes and building codes have changed. They've gotten much more extensive and descriptive. We know some of that was initiated after the station fire. And we now have fire codes and building codes that are very extensive. They are regulated by numerous agencies at the state and local level. And they go through, the building official and the fire department at our level go through something they call site review on every industrial development that comes forward. So for the past few years, the board itself has had this conundrum of needing to meet every time a new or expanded industrial use is brought to the town for a building permit. Comes in for an expansion, for a building permit for expansion, or a building permit even to locate here. And we've had several in the last few years, which I'm thankful to say we're lucky to see. But we had to always stop the process and convene a meeting of the Industrial Performance Commission. And the commission members themselves realized, as time went on, that their work was somewhat duplicating the work of very highly trained professionals and experts in the fields of chemicals and fire and specific building codes. So it was the board itself who drew this conclusion, and the fire chief sits on the board. They came to the conclusion that they really weren't serving the kind of purpose and role that they did, and they did very effectively back in the 70s when the fire code was much more generally worded and building code was not quite as well connected to the fire code. So they drew their own conclusion and voted some months ago to request that you dissolve them. You wouldn't be eliminating the standards in Section 12.6 or the performance criteria in Section 12.7. Those would all still be there. Those would be the measurement tools that the building official, our fire chief, our fire marshal, and state regulators would continue to use into the future. So the law, as it relates to development of industrial businesses, would not be getting weaker at all, just a little more streamlined.
Thank you. And this is, the planning board obviously approved this as well, so it's a multi.
Yes, it went before the planning board for recommendation, and they agreed with the Industrial Performance Commission and voted to recommend approval. Chief Arnold is here also if you had any questions for him as it relates to the operations of the fire department.
Thank you. Any comment or discussion regarding this item? Motion to close the public hearing?
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to
Dissolve
the
Industrial
Performance Commission. Well, a motion to amend Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning, dissolving the Industrial Performance Commission. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to a public hearing to amend the text. Oh, sorry.
Place that on file.
Do you have to do that? We have to place on file the recommendation? Oh, a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
Move that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the next public hearing, a public hearing to amend the text of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Zoning, specifically Section 2.2 Definitions and Section 4.7 Special Flood Hazard Overlay District. Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. DeLuca.
Hello again. This ordinance may seem a little bit familiar to those of you who were on the council in 2010. We actually updated the FEMA, we updated the Flood Hazard Overlay District Ordinance in October 2010 in response to direction from FEMA as they were updating their flood maps. And the last time we'd had that done was in 1984. So we thought we were pretty good for a few years, but FEMA decided they wanted to make some more changes. So they are back to us 3 years later. And what they've done is they've already done the maps. The maps are, I have copies of those maps on hard copy and digital format for anyone who needs to see them. But they are not effective until October 16th. In the meantime, they've asked us, very strongly asked us, to update our ordinance to coincide with that. So what I've done is we've drafted a new ordinance. It's going to be essentially removal of the old ordinance and replacement with the new one. About 90% of the language is the same. In your packet, you have a bulleted list. I don't know if you recall, it's at the back of the packet, that identifies the 11 primary things that are being changed. There are a few typographical errors that are being corrected. I'm not going to go into that. So I'd like to just go over these things in the very briefest form, and feel free to stop me at any point if you have a question about any one of the provisions. The first provision is to just add the words "unless otherwise specified" at the top of the definition section of the zoning ordinance. That's section 2.2 of the zoning ordinance. The reason for that is to make sure that we can accommodate the need to have the definitions in this subchapter be relevant only to this subchapter. Unfortunately, our definition section is in Part 2, but other parts of the ordinance have some definitions in them. So we want to be able to make sure that the definitions in Part 2 relate to the entire ordinance unless otherwise specified. That's the first change. More of a semantical issue than anything else. Moving on to the items in Section 4.7, the Flood Hazard Overlay District. The first item, which shows up on the first page of the ordinance, is that we revised the panel numbers of the maps just to coincide with what FEMA has provided to us. And secondly, right at the bottom of that first page, we identify specifically that the building official is the enforcement agent for the flood hazard ordinance. Moving on to the second page of the ordinance, there's a section on administrative provisions. And the first part is in regard to building permits. And this is one of the significant changes. Previously, or heretofore, the only time that the flood ordinance came into play was when a property, a building, in a flood zone or floodway was being altered. With the new definition, it extends to non-building alterations. So that includes site alterations. Now, the building official doesn't issue permits for site alterations, so what this section dictates is that the Rhode Island DEM or the Coastal Resource Management Council staff would be issuing those site permits. So now we have to make sure that we refer people who are doing alterations to their property that don't affect their house or their garage or any other building to the Coastal Council or the RIDEM staff before they're issued a permit to do so. The next item is on the third page, is that we add provisions for enforcement and penalties. This is straight out of the standard wording that FEMA has given us. There never were, up until this point, enforcement or penalty provisions, so they've added them in
I
both
lost
cases.
the enforcement. Sorry, Michael. Where is that? What section?
We're on the third page
Yeah,
of the ordinance itself, and we are under,
H.
yes, thank
Okay,
you.
I got it.
We're under Section 2, but we're on
I got it.
H and I. We've extended the list to H and I.
Thank you.
Enforcement and penalties would be carried out by the building official. The next change is just a minor change in the federal agency that would be notified. As you can see, it's the risk analysis branch instead of the NFIP program specialist. The next item is corrects two typos and inserts a reference to two state regulations addressing water quality and endangered species. This has to do with making sure that any development in a floodway complies with these state regulations. So they never previously had to comply with the Endangered Species Act of Rhode Island or the Water Quality Regulation Act of Section 42.17.1 of state code. Moving on, on the sixth page, they amend three standards for the exemption of flood-proof requirements. One is that they change the reference from the size of a building to its value. So now instead of it being more than 100 square feet in size would be the trigger, it's based upon the value of the building being less than $1,000. There are two other new exemption clauses. If the structure is not in the floodway and if the structure is not used for storage of hazardous material. So those are fairly simple and short. The next one is somewhat significant, and it has to do, it's item G on that same page, which is the, I believe, the 5th or 6th page of the ordinance. It's item G, and it states that no person shall change from a business or commercial use to a residential use any structure located in a floodway. So change of use was never regulated before, and now it will be. The next had to do with the lowest floor and what that means. Previously, lowest floor had a somewhat vague definition, and now they have added a 3-paragraph definition that I won't get into here, but it does provide a bit more detail as to what can and cannot be below the lowest floor of a house or any building in a floodway. The next part of it is all on definitions, which starts, it's item E. It's on about the 7th page of the ordinance. And there are about 15 definitions that are either new or revised. The one that really needs to be described most importantly is the coastal A zone, because there never was one before. When you speak in flood terminology, you speak in A zones and V zones. A zones are zones that are usually caused by the rise of flood water from rivers or from the natural rise of rivers, streams, ponds. V zones, V stands for velocity. The V zones reference directly the storm surge that you would get from the ocean in a very large storm. The coastal A zone is kind of an intermediate zone that's been established that is above the V zone, so it's inland of where the velocity of the wave might hit, but it is not in the velocity zone. They just established this new section called the coastal A zone. So that's very important. I've already talked to you about lowest floor, that's been defined. And as far as words like development and flood insurance rate map, they've made some modest wording changes. There are a few others. Freeboard is a new word that they input to the regulation. Freeboard, if anybody owns a boat, you know what freeboard is. It's a part of the boat that sticks out of the water, and you hope you have a lot of it. Well, in flood zone discussion, freeboard is how much of your house is above the flood elevation, and that there should be a measurable area that separates the flood height from your first floor. So I won't get into any of the other descriptions of those definitions unless you have one in particular that you'd like to discuss. The important thing is that we hold this hearing tonight, close it. I would ask that you do your first reading tonight also so that we can place this on the October 7th agenda, because we have a deadline to meet of October 16th by the FEMA, by Rhode Island EMA and federal EMA.
Mike, just one of the things following the changes, I don't know what that program is, but sometimes you show the changes in red, what it exists and how it changes, and it helps to follow all the changes you made. So maybe, can you help me out with that? Just going through it, you know, just for the next time, just so we have.
I did. I believe I sent you all a marked up version of this in advance.
Oh, okay.
I believe I did. I'm working from that one myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because those help, because you can see this is what the ordinance says, and here are the changes. So I'll reference that.
I'm sorry that somehow yours didn't get to you.
No, that's good. Yeah, I listened to you now going through it, but I need that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further questions?
What's the rationale for, like I'm looking at 47D1 and 47B2, kind of inviting the state agencies in, I mean, to have more authority here? I mean, so we're referencing state regulations regarding water quality, endangered species, especially endangered species. Is that something, why are we, I have concerns about some of these things giving away some of our local autonomy.
I would believe that that inclusion and addition to the related regulations that need to be considered have all to do with the concern that the federal government, FEMA, has with alterations of the site that don't involve alterations of structures. Because now they're saying they want to regulate if you're digging a hole or you're grading your property to move the stormwater drainage in one way or another. They would be then concerned about how that might impact water quality regulations, probably to a lesser degree endangered species. I think around here that won't have a whole lot of effect. But the water quality standards seem to me, although I haven't had that discussion with the Rhode Island EMA staff, it would seem to me that that is related to the site alterations provision.
Yeah, I think my concern is I want to know what we have to do versus, can there be more language of may, several of the bullet points I'm struggling with there and really want to go through in more detail, but then I find out we're up against the deadline. So
well, my apology on that matter. What had happened was they actually sent us a draft ordinance, which looked a lot like this one with several fill-in-the-blank areas. Type in local official's name, type in such and such. They are pressing very hard for us to utilize the language they've suggested. The language that you see here in black, if you've got the marked up version.
No, I have that. No, I don't. But I remember you sending it. But
is all existing language.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is already on our books today per the 2010 regulation. But I understand where you're coming from. Why bring in these other regulatory connections, and could that cause trouble? The only thing I could say about that is that the Federal Emergency Management Agency felt very strongly about putting these two things in. I believe that if we take them out, there may be a problem in getting our ordinance adopted or authorized at the federal level. However, if we feel strongly about it that we want to remove those, you may want to cast your vote with certain omissions, and I could send that to them and see how it goes. We would need to defend why we would want to take those things out. But I'd be willing to do that.
So let's hold off. Everything's in place. In a rush, right? We're kind of in a rush. Do we have time to?
If we remember, though, with the funding improvement plan, there are always options to remedy something if we're not comfortable with. There's always that option. If you remember with the funding improvement plan, we put in a special meeting so we could go through the two readings. But I don't know. I'd like to see what your thoughts are. Maybe I'm being too scared of regulations that seem to be being added. I don't know. I want to see what you guys think.
Is there a scenario, Matt, that plays out in your head that makes you concerned? Or, I mean, to Mike's point, this is already sort of in the existing ordinance, so it's not really a change. We didn't have the benefit of lawyers on the council back then in 2010.
Lucky you.
No, I'm not. No, there's not a specific. But well, I think about, and maybe I'm off base here. I think about that whole discussion we had about the beach erosion and the piping plover, and we're inviting the Endangered Species Act to be brought into that conversation, and now we're mandating it. That's one of the things I was thinking of. But am I wrong? I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think I can.
And then I'll be comfortable voting.
I don't think I can, Matt.
Okay.
It's a very good question. And if you wanted to hold off on a vote to set up another time, if we can find a way to meet our October 16 deadline, then I can take your question back to the Rhode Island EMA staff, who are my liaisons to FEMA, and ask them to give us an interpretation as to the importance and whether or not FEMA would be amenable to omitting those two regulatory provisions.
Or is it as simple as the word choice, may versus must?
Well,
well, obviously, if you have may, you have a lot more wiggle room.
Right?
Right. So.
Okay.
But I think, I was going to ask that I'd like more time to digest it, hear what you had to say. So that was kind of my thought process on it. You know, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's holistic. It relates. The changes to definitions relate to sections where you are changing
Right.
sections. So, right. So you can't just look at the change definition in isolation, and you know. So you have a glossary of definitions, but now you're changing the glossary. It's not like we're having a very discrete 1 or 2 point.
Right.
I mean, there are some thematic changes, I think, going on here.
Well, I think so.
And
You know,
I know why they are, but.
The coastal A zone in and of itself is kind of a, you know, it's a new thing, and I think the reason they came up with it is because we've experienced some pretty significant storms in the last few years, and they're trying to make their regulations, if I could speak for them, reflect the real impact of the flood surges that we have had nationwide, not just here in New England. So I think they're trying to make the regulations understandable at that level. It's a little bit technical, but, you know, understandable at the level of the people who study coastal impacts of storms, et cetera. So I give them credit for that. The question mark about things like the Endangered Species Act is somewhat, seems disconnected to some of the other things.
Yeah.
So I would be happy to take any questions you have for them, back to them, and request answers.
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Wojciechowski?
Would you raise your right hand, please? Stand. You swear the testimony about to give in the matter now in hearing, so with the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and spell your last name, please, for the record.
Stan Wojciechowski, Wojciechowski. I like that may versus must. That was very, very important. I'm just a little confused. Is this going to stop me from taking a bush out or adding a bush around one of my houses? I'm going to have to come somewhere to get permission to add or subtract some of my plantings, and in what areas? How close? I guess it ties into. Is this a total change in the map? So now a home that I own must have flood insurance, where yesterday it didn't. So now with flood insurance, I'm going to pay an extra $1,000, or a lot of people are going to pay an extra $1,000 for flood insurance that didn't have to pay it last year. Is the map included on this, along with plantings that we can't plant? So now we got regulations to stop us from maintaining or improving our property in some areas, and I don't know which areas. I didn't look at the maps. I have to be honest. I didn't check the maps out. I didn't check my properties out either. But it's kind of onerous. It just sounds like, yeah, I can't take the bush down. It's too big. I want to put a smaller one, and I can't do that, you know. Or I want to add some bushes, you know. And then, of course, the biggest thing, of course, is the flood insurance. Flood insurance is significant. Significant. Is everybody aware of they now qualify to be in some kind of flooded area, and we're sneaking in this map so quietly that it's going to have a $1,000 bill here, and we don't know. I don't know how to solve that problem. Is that what's happening? Is this part of it? People are going to have a flooding a number here.
Mr. Wojciechowski, I think you got 3 questions here, so let me try to answer them in order. First, you asked, will new people be regulated? And the answer is possibly. The new maps do not exactly reflect the old maps. So the reality is that there may be some properties coming out of flood zones and other properties coming into flood zones. With regard to will it stop a property owner from planting bushes in their properties? If the planting were targeted for what is known as an A zone or a V zone, and it was a significant enough alteration of the ground such that you are changing the grade of the property, then the answer may be yes. But that would not be regulated here at the local level. It would be regulated by Rhode Island DEM or Coastal Resource Management Council, and that would be determined by how close or far you are from the coastal shore. And then the last question, flood insurance, go back to the answer to the first question. If you have suddenly, on the new maps, been located within the flood zone where you weren't before, then you would be required to take out flood insurance. That analysis will be done by my staff in the coming weeks, and a list of property owners who fall into the zone or fall out of the zone or fall into a new zone will be identified, and notification will be sent to them. So we will be doing as much promotion on that as we can. Keep in mind, we don't have any authority over what the maps say.
Right.
FEMA did that, not us.
I think Mr. Wojciechowski raises some interesting points, and Mr. Mannix has as well. I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing so we can address some of these issues. We should have probably looked at it more closely, but we didn't, so I think it's part our fault. But
I'm happy to make that motion.
Second.
And if we have a public hearing scheduled for next meeting? Do we? No. Okay.
So we can just continue.
Continue the next meeting, October?
Perfect.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0, and I believe that ends the meeting for tonight. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone.